Hey folks, I have another story for you today, and this one has direct relevance on not only my life, but the lives of basically all white South Africans. Before I get started, I just want to be clear that I don't make these videos cataloguing and chronicling the gradual downfall of South Africa because I'm some sort of embittered white person who believes myself entitled to special treatment or special recognition simply because I'm white. I make these videos because I'm a journalist by trade, and it's really the only way that I feel I can make a meaningful contribution to the lives of others by making it known just what's going on in South Africa these days. So with that said, I'll get started. The story itself is entitled Dis-Chem Sticks to Moratorium on Hiring of Whites, and it was written by Nick Wilson. JSE listed pharmaceutical retailer Dis-Chem has issued a moratorium on hiring white people to improve its employment equity profile. Okay, so first off, I'm going to explain the context of all this. Dis-Chem is one of South Africa's largest pharmacy franchises. It sells all manner of medication and medical equipment all around South Africa. The JSE is the Johannesburg Stock Exchange, the South African variation of what Americans and Europeans would think of as Wall Street or the FTSE 100. In a letter to senior management dated September 19th, founder and CEO Ivan Saltzman announced the moratorium, which includes external appointments and internal promotions. It's the ratio between white and black that counts. So when no suitable black candidate is found and a white is appointed, we need several blacks just to maintain the status quo. Never mind going forward, said Saltzman. Now, just to explain to you what's going on here, since the end of apartheid in 1994, South Africa has been governed by a policy, an employment policy specifically, focused on equity. Because under apartheid, black people were denied access to many different avenues of employment, the government now mandates that there must be certain figures in each publicly trading company. So they have to maintain basically like the perfect ratio, or a business like Dis-Chem will face heavy fines, as you'll see when I continue. He referred to employment equity targets and said that as Dis-Chem is a listed group, these harsh measures are necessary if we are to remain profitable and to avoid a potential fine of 10% of turnover, which could cripple the business. Fines for non-compliance with the Employment Equity Act have been increased to a maximum of 2.7 million rand, or 10% of annual turnover, whichever is the greater, for repeat offenders, according to law firm Cliff Decker Hofmeyer. Saltzman said that the achievement of set employment equity targets would be incorporated into the bonus structures of management, and the allocation will be issued in due course. This will form a large part of your KPAs, probably a third. This is for real. Each region has a base from which to work and a target. Saltzman said no managerial appointments, including senior, middle, and junior, were to be made without his direct approval as CEO. On Friday, Trade Union Solidarity shared the internal memo in a tweet written in Afrikaans, with its CEO, Dirk Herman, saying it had sent Dis-Chem a legal letter about the harsh racial stance in it, asking how on earth a letter like this could ever have been written in the first place. Herman claimed that Dis-Chem had retracted the memo. However, Dis-Chem told News 24 Business that the memo still stands, and Dis-Chem reiterates its commitment to the transformation journey. In South Africa, transformation is a word you'll hear a lot when it relates to employment equity, and it's really just a code for denying white people access to employment. Something I want to make clear here is that although the article might make it seem like Dis-Chem is the villain, as a company, Dis-Chem is in a really difficult place, because if they don't comply with this employment equity legislation, the government will basically shut them down through punitive measures like the fines already mentioned. So although it might be easy to look at Dis-Chem and say, these greedy corporate bastards, it's not actually Dis-Chem's fault. The real blame here, as usual, lies at the foot of the ANC. Equality and diversity are important to Dis-Chem, and the group continues to make great strides in ensuring that it maintains progress in this area, said the company in a statement. It said it was a proudly South African business which promotes inclusivity and representation of all South Africans in their capacity as key stakeholders. Now obviously this is just corporate marketing bullshit that they feel compelled to say so that the government doesn't target them for destruction, which, as the ANC has proven, it is perfectly willing to do. If you look at the customers of Dis-Chem, they would be more than 70% black people. So our issue is that ultimately the management, the ownership of companies, and control of the economy should reflect the demographics of the country, said Hanki Matabane, CEO of the Black Business Council, in reaction. Now obviously this is what you get with central planning. These people that generate this legislation only think in terms of abstract figures, and they have no real understanding of how business actually works. They have no real understanding of the practical implications of the policies they generate, and they don't care, because what matters to them are their ideological goals, not the impact that they have in terms of the real world and what this does to the lives of ordinary South Africans. While the organization had not seen the full internal memo by Saltzman, from a principal point of view, it agreed with the moves to improve the company's employment equity profile. Matabane said companies in general were not meeting their own employment equity targets, and that when we look at the JSE listed companies, the CEOs are still almost 70% white males. So something needs to be done to change this. Remember, we are 28 years into this democracy. Well, I guess that's the end of the article, and it shows you just how those who are ideologically motivated, like this head of the Black Business Council, don't care about the suffering that their rhetoric causes. They don't give a shit about whether what they are doing will actually promote a prosperous nation in real terms. What this is, really, is a policy of vengeance. And you can understand that on an emotional level. I'm sure that there are many people, and particularly those who have the power now, who want to kind of reorganize South Africa as they see fit and make their supposed enemies suffer for the injustices that were committed under apartheid. But when you look at what is actually happening, by and large, it is not white people who will suffer the brunt of this stuff. This policy of employment equity, even if a company like Dis-Chem does its best to comply and to meet these ridiculous targets, this policy will destroy the company and any other company that complies with it. Maybe not today, maybe not next week, but eventually. Because when you employ on the basis of race, instead of actual aptitude or skill in the position, you have a vast collapse in productivity, there's no more innovation, and eventually everything stalls. This is why every government-run enterprise in South Africa, and I do mean literally almost everyone, from municipalities to state-owned enterprises like Eskom, our electricity generator, every one of these enterprises that the government runs based on these policies is bankrupt or on the verge of being bankrupt. And that is because, as I say, these people do not care about whether their policies actually work. Their policies give them emotional satisfaction because in their minds they think, now we are the ones exercising power. We get to decide what happens. We tell you what to do. They don't care about whether what they are telling people to do actually benefits the country. They just feel good about themselves being able to wield power over others. And the consequence of that is that I don't believe that within 15 to 20 years, I don't believe that South Africa will still be able to be recognized as a country. And I don't know what that means for me, personally. I don't know what's going to happen to me. I don't know where myself or my family are going to end up. And so that is why I'm making videos like this. Not because I'm racist and I want to see non-white people held down. Simply because I'm saying this stuff is insane. Literally. It is absurd. It's like living in a comic book. And all I can think to do is to chronicle events as accurately and honestly as I can. I hope this little rant of mine that it turned into has nonetheless been of some value to you. And for now, farewell.